and welcome to Free Practice 2 ahead of the opening round of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. This is the 2023 Hankook Mexico City E-Prix, the first race of a new era in the all-electric single-seater series, because we've got a brand new car for this season, and this is the opening round of the season. Thank you very much for joining us. We had Free Practice 1 yesterday afternoon. This Free Practice 2, qualifying coming up in around about 2 hours from now, and then the race getting underway 2 o'clock local time this afternoon here in Mexico City. Head to the Formula E website and click on where to watch to find out when and where it's on in whatever time zone you are in. In our time zone, it's mightily early here in Mexico City where we're starting the season. Then we head to Diriyah in Saudi Arabia for a doubleheader at the end of January. New races in Hyderabad, Cape Town and Sao Paulo. Then a doubleheader at Tempelhof in Berlin. Monaco is round 9 of the championship in May. Doubleheader in Jakarta in Indonesia. Another new venue, Portland, Oregon in the United States in the end of June. Doubleheader in Rome, doubleheader in London, and that rounds off the 16 race calendar of 2023. Nico Müller getting ready to go, just doing his stretches before hopping into the Abt team. Declared his car undrivable yesterday. Eduardo Mortara in good form this weekend and focused as ever. Sam Bird, a challenging day yesterday for the Jaguar squad. Jake Dennis at Avalanche Andretti. Stoffel Vandoorne, the reigning champion at DS Penske for this season. So plenty of changes for the entry list this season. Stoffel Vandoorne enters as number 1 as the reigning champion for DS Penske. Sergio Sette Camara moves to Neo. Robin Freitz moves to Abt, who are returning to the series. Jake Hughes makes his debut with McLaren. Max Günther moves to Maserati. Oliver Rowland stays at Mahindra, as do Evans and Bird at Jaguar TCS Racing. De Grassi moves to Mahindra. Antonio Felix da Costa moves to Porsche. And then we have Sebastian Buemi moving to Envision. 2 new drivers at Nissan, Norman Nato and Sasha Fenestraz. Jean-Eric Verne has stayed with DS, but DS have moved to Penske, so Verne's gone with them. Jake Dennis is still at Avalanche Andretti. Dan Ticktum still at Neo. Andre Lotterer moves from Porsche to Avalanche Andretti. Cassidy still at Envision. Mortara still at Maserati MSG, even though they've renamed. Nico Müller returns to the championship at Abt. Rene Rast joins McLaren, and Pascal Wehrlein stays at Porsche. So we've only got 4 or 5 drivers with the same team as last season. There's a look at this wonderful Circuit Hermanos Rodriguez. We're about a 15-minute drive, if you time it right, from the center of Mexico City, the historic square at Zocalo, and just to the southeast, this historic race circuit named after the Rodriguez brothers, Ricardo and Pedro, who raced in Formula 1 and sports cars in the 1960s. And this is the circuit, a little loop up at turns 5 and 6. New chicane for this season at turns 9 and 10. And then we turn right at turn 12 into the Foro Sol Baseball Stadium. Attack mode's on the outside of turn 15 this year, through the final corner at the Peraltada and out across the line. And that is the 2.630 kilometer 19 turn Mexico City E-Prix circuit here at the Circuit Hermanos Rodriguez. My name is Jack Nichols. Alongside me in commentary is the former Avalanche Andretti driver Oliver Askew and our digital presenter Saunders CB. And Oliver, Max Günther getting ready to go out. We saw the cars on track yesterday. Jean-Eric Verne was quickest, but the whole order still pretty jumbled. It's not like, oh, 1 practice session, now we know what's going on.
We still don't really have a good idea of who's going to be on pole today, which is super exciting. We have an action-packed day ahead of us, and I'm looking forward to see what unfolds here.
Saunders, what did you make of the first Gen 3 practice session?
Oh, it's incredibly exciting. I mean, we know that there's going to be a very, very, very steep learning curve for this car. We hope it's going to be a quick, steep learning curve. But, you know, the running today is going to be completely different. It's much earlier in the day, it's much colder, track temperature's much lower. So we could have a completely different set of results, and how exciting is that? Yeah,
it's, the cars are heading out onto the circuit now. It is just gone 7:30 in the morning here. Everybody heading out onto the circuit. Just gone 7:30. You need coats and stuff to come to the track today, and it'll warm up in the afternoon, getting up to sort of 20 degrees or so, but certainly in the morning, just as the sun is beginning to rise over this very high city here in Mexico, and we've got 29 minutes and 15 seconds on the clock, and everybody making their way out onto the circuit. So coming around turns 5 and 6 at the moment. And yeah, how different are those track conditions going to be, Oliver? And what difference will it make for the teams? Because the track's still evolving, but it's also in a different condition.
It's going to be very different. I don't think teams really have a good understanding yet of how these new Hankook tires are working. The conditions, as we said, are changing rapidly session to session. It's going to be interesting to see now that all the focus is going towards qualifying, to see which strategy they go for in that qualifying session. It's a 12-minute qualifying session. They can either stay on track and run 2 stints of 4 laps with a couple of cool laps in between, or they can run 3 laps each stint and have some time in between to pit for another set of tires. So it's going to be interesting to see here what each team decides to do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the strategy is going to be so crucial, and not just for the whole season, of course, but for this first race, I can't wait to see how the teams decide, whether to run the whole thing, like you say, whether there is a tyre change at any point. But yeah, it's going to be tight. It's going to be tight. It's going to be really interesting. I'm absolutely buzzing.
Here is Max Günther then in the Maserati MSG racing team. Maserati joining as the power unit supplier, and MSG, Monaco Sports Group, the rename basically of the Venturi squad, who have been so successful over the last few years. They've got a new team principal in James Rossiter, who's the chap on the left-hand side there, down in the bottom right, was the sporting advisor or something at DS Techeetah last year. He just sat there next to Nigel Beresford swearing, basically, seemed to be his role, but he's now managed to make the step up to team principal.
He suits the role well. I did the press conference yesterday, and he's already got all the lines, all the media stuff ready. He's fitting very well already.
And Günther making his way out onto the start-finish straight again. Through that right-hander and onto the Peraltada. Lucas de Grassi yet to leave the pits in the Mahindra. Everybody else is on the circuit, but de Grassi remaining in the pit lane. Günther yesterday ended up 10th quickest, about 7/10 of a second away from Jean-Eric Verne. Here's Sam Bird. Tricky day yesterday for Jaguar. Some of their couldn't get their systems quite going how they wanted. There is James Rossiter on the left-hand side, as Bird does a 21.7 initially. So look at Eduardo Mortara coming down into the first corner and going straight on. So Mortara going in a little bit deep. We saw all of that yesterday, Oliver, of cars taking the escape road at turn 1.
Yeah, and we spoke about that yesterday, turn 1 being the corner where most drivers are going to test their braking. It's the highest braking pressure on the circuit, with the highest approach speed, with the most runoff as well. So no better place to really push the limits there. And that's why we see so many drivers going straight on.
Yeah, and there's that additional runoff now as well, because Lucas de Grassi is the driver representative, isn't he, for the grid and the Formula E. I think they've all been asking for that little bit of extra runoff here for a few seasons, so their wishes has been granted.
Interesting here, not really seeing anyone going for a lap, maybe waiting for the track to come in a bit.
Yeah, quickest lap time yesterday was a 13.2. And you can see Bird is coming across the line now, not really pushing, and does a 19.855. So he remains in second place. Buemi jumps up to the quickest at the moment on an 18.7. Da Costa does an 18.7 as well. So lap times are coming down, but still quite a way away from the quickest time yesterday. Sebastian Buemi in the Envision, coming through the left-hander at turn 3 in his new team. I'm excited for Buemi this year, because he, after being such a front runner, slipped away the last couple of years with a tricky Nissan outfit, and hopefully he can be back towards the front.
Yeah, for sure. It's the same with Sam Bird as well. We saw it a lot on social media, actually. The Twitter fans and everyone watching, they want Sam to kind of come back to that winning ways. Until last season, he had that amazing record of winning a race in every season, which he hasn't got anymore, so everyone wants him to come back.
And that's Bird on the radio saying MCU error, so sounding frustrated, as I said yesterday. He's pulling off at the side of the circuit, Sam Bird, and that might be the end of his session. Might also bring out a red flag or full course yellow potentially. But as I say, Bird and the Jaguar team having software troubles yesterday, and yeah, tough day at the office for the Jaguars, and it looks as though it's continuing on the same fashion. Da Costa goes to the top of the times on a 15.2. There is the Envision squad, and they're looking at the data of Buemi in third.
Yeah, De Grassi just blocked me. That's nice of him.
Less than
Yeah,
24
copy, mate. And
minutes to
yellow,
go.
turn 15. Jag pulled off to the side.
And there is Bird, pulled off at the side of the circuit. And it doesn't look as though he's going to be able to get it going again. Here's a replay of him. Just listen to this. Just got no drive really, does he? And then
the brakes are locked.
yeah, getting the car stopped as he comes around the Foro Sol. So frustration for Sam Bird, still there, sitting in the car. Phil Charles, the chief engineer, through the middle there. So I say, difficult day for Jaguar yesterday, and it's not starting well today. And they're a team who have been so close the last few years to winning titles, but not quite managing it yet.
Yeah, the bridesmaids always, isn't there? They're desperate to get rid of that, but there's a real hunger in the team. Talking to James Barclay yesterday, they're so determined just to get back up there, show their kind of worth as a big manufacturer in the championship, push for titles, because they've come close on so many occasions now. Surely it's got to come. It has to come.
Yeah. Looks as though Bird has managed to get the car going again. So a bit of a reset, and he's maybe going to get back to the pits for James Barclay's team.
He's done a full reset of the car there. And as we saw yesterday, he did have some software issues, and it's so easy with these new cars for issues like that to snowball, and for the engineers to not get a complete grasp of it just overnight. So
Van Dorn coming down into the first corner, and someone's gone straight on. I think that's Sasha Fenestraz at turn 1. But I will double check that because Fenestraz had just come through the timing line, so I think it was him. In fact, he's just done a personal best and gone third quickest, Fenestraz, but was still 3 seconds off the best lap times from yesterday.
Fenestraz saying yesterday that it sort of felt like a home race just because he speaks the language. Everyone here was giving him a lot of love. Nice to see.
Half Argentinian, Sasha Fenestraz.
Yeah.
Down in the pit lane this weekend, we have Karun Chandok. Good morning, Karun. Nice and awake?
Morning everybody. Yes, I am awake because it is bitterly cold and my hands are freezing. But I am standing outside Jaguar, where, as you said before, Sam Bird stopped out on track. He has made it back into the pits. The team are wheeling the car into the garage. Let's see if there's any immediate thing I can notice. But they're checking the front wing. They have got a spare front wing for him. But at the moment, it does seem like it's the alt control delete or whatever he did has got him going again.
Okay, thanks for that, Karun. So we'll see what they get up to down there in the garage as the cars come down into the first corner once more. Look at that, they look so aggressive coming out of the final corner. And there is the front wing Karun was just talking about, because he got near the barriers when he pulled off at the side of the circuit, but obviously didn't touch them. Here's Nico Muller in the Abt Cupra. As I mentioned earlier on today, declared the car undrivable. Yesterday, Mahindra a little bit behind the curve in terms of development, and then Abt a Mahindra customer, so I think they could be in for a tough season, but Muller's an experienced racer.
there's not much his engineers can do with that driver feedback. I hope that he went back to the garage and went into more detail about what he needs from the car today in order to improve. Obviously, we see the Mahindra-powered cars towards the bottom of the grid, at least in FP2, and we hope to see them improve today.
There is Thomas Biermeier and Fred Espinos in the bottom right, the duo running the Abt team. 20 minutes to go in the session. Verline still quickest on a 14.4, and he's done a reasonable first sector actually, so he is looking for an improvement as Muller comes down into the first corner. And there is Thomas Biermeier, team principal and CEO of Abt Cupra, stepping up into basically taking over sort of Hans-Jürgen Abt's position when Abt were previously in the championship. And their powertrain provider is Mahindra, and this is Oliver Rowland in the Mahindra. Hit the wall yesterday fairly heftily actually, didn't he, Oliver?
Yeah, big shunt there in turn 9. just overcooked the breaking point there and went to the apex of 10. Not something that the guys in the garage weren't able to fix, obviously, so good to see him back on track.
Interesting with Roland, talking to him on the track walk yesterday. A couple of seasons ago when Nissan had the dual motor and they had the rear motor as well that was then eventually banned, he said he actually had a bit of experience of that whole different feeling of regen braking, where the drivers feel like they're getting pulled backwards rather than pulled forwards. So he said it's not really an advantage, but interesting that they have some sort of experience in a Gen 3-like setup.
Yeah, that is. As Roland comes through the final corner now and out across the line. His best result in Mexico City was a 7th place in season 6. Has a podium finish in Puebla, which is about an hour-and-a-half drive south of here, where we raced in season 7. Is Roland's radio? No, not hearing the team radio at the moment, but 18 minutes and 20 seconds to go. And here's Jake Hughes. He was quick yesterday, ended the session's 2nd fastest, and he's a 10th and a half up on Pascal Wehrlein's lap time here. So through the final corner comes Jake Hughes in the Neon McLaren, out across the line. And does Hughes go to the top of the times? Indeed he does. A 1 minute 13.6, 0.3 of a second quicker than Pascal Wehrlein. So the Neon McLaren going into second place, into quickest after being second yesterday. His teammate René Rast down in 12th place at the moment. And I think he's just starting a quick lap here, René Rast, because he did a cool-down lap before, comes through the first sector in a few moments, and we'll see what lap time he's got compared to his teammate. Onto the brakes into 5 and 6, and he's 2 seconds down. So maybe this isn't a push lap for René Rast.
It was interesting yesterday. Jake Hughes, the quickest of the 350 runners, but he was still second. And John-Eric Verne did his lap just about a 10th ahead of him, still in 300 power. So interesting to see. We do understand that it's so difficult to put the power down in these new cars, and with that extra 50 kilowatts of power, it makes that even more difficult.
There's been discussion about how they're getting the most out of the software to control the locking up, haven't they? And interestingly, I know Neo felt quite confident after testing about that software. And then you look at the timings from everyone yesterday, and Sergio said the cameras were up there.
Yeah, 3rd quickest yesterday. Sergio said a camera. Here comes Rast out across the line. Has got a little bit held up here by the Nissan as he comes across the line, but doesn't improve that time around. Eduardo Mortara just did the fastest first sector of anyone, but didn't improve in the rest of the lap. Here's a look at Eduardo Mortara. Maybe this is why. Very quick first sector from Mortara, and that's a big one, down at 5 and 6.
Huge lockup
at
the rear of the car there. Normally, we see the right front lock up in that corner with a combined braking as you're turning in on the brakes heavy there. So interesting to see the rear.
Sam Bird's still in the garage, not coming out yet. It's not gone well for it so far. Mexico City's not playing nicely for Sam Bird.
No, not a good start to a year where he needs to rebound from his season 8. Going into this year with a new mental game,
yes,
he said yesterday. And as we know, that's extremely important in any form of sport.
Here, coming through now is the Porsche of Wehrlein.
Overcooks it there.
I mean, that's an interesting one to follow up on, just saying about the mental game. Like, from a driver's perspective, it's quite challenging, though. Pretty much a one-day race format. We've got practice on the day before now, but if you have a bad session, you have such a limited amount of time to get yourself back in the right mindset for qualifying in the race. How'd you do it?
When things go bad, you need a short memory. That's just what it comes down to. Believing in yourself, believing in the team around you, having confidence, and confidence is everything, you know.
15 minutes to go. And there is the Andretti coming into the left-hander, and that was Andre Lotterer. There's the Neo team getting ready with a new set of tyres by the looks of things.
Close up on this season's tyre, which I think the McLaren team are very happy about the colouring of.
Yeah, it works out well for them.
Yeah, the Hankook colouring on the tread and on the sides as well. As we go back to Lotterer, coming towards the stadium now. He's currently 17th fastest. He's a second down in sector 1, so not a big push lap here for Lotterer.
He's definitely pushing.
Well, yeah, that's true. He's 2 seconds down after the middle sector, though. But I was worried about Porsche coming into this weekend. Verline's lap time yesterday was encouraging, though, only 4/10 away. I love this camera angle, by the way. Love this new onboard look.
You can really see how blind this final corner is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's so many angles covered this season. It's great. I can't wait for the highlights.
It's all about muscle memory and references that you build through the session, whether it's advertisements on the side of the track or cracks and surface changes in the road. In a blind corner like that, that's what you rely on.
Never shadows, though.
Never shadows. They change throughout the day.
13.5 minutes to go. And Da Costa in the other Porsche coming through now towards 5 and 6. That's Lotterer getting out of the way of one of the Envisions. Degrassi's done a reasonable... Actually, Degrassi's done a reasonable lap. He's up in 7th place, and he's just done a decent first sector. So we'll keep an eye on the Mahindra man's lap time, because they are looking for some encouragement. 13th quickest yesterday, Degrassi, 9/10 away from Jean-Eric Verne. But here comes Da Costa, who's joined the Porsche team for this year, and he told Pascal Wehrlein he was joining Porsche in a toilet last year. They did a little, because Wehrlein gave him a little nod, and Da Costa thought that meant that he knew he was joining Porsche. So Da Costa was like, "Oh yeah, looking forward to next season." Pascal was like, "What do you mean?" So they were having this whole chat in the toilet about how there's Mortara off the he's bent left rear.
Left rear. It's clipped the wall somewhere. Where's that's the final. He's going over the finish now. So maybe a similar incident
to Rast
yesterday.
Yeah, so this is going to be tough for Mortara to get back to the pit lane when it's crabbing like this.
It's going to be a real workout.
So this is a problem, because there is a chance that drivers crawling back to the garage with damage to the rear of the car can affect the powertrain and can damage the powertrain and cause even more work for the guys in the garage. But at the same time, you don't want to lose any track time. So yeah, very similar.
Yeah, almost identical to the Rast shunt. He's done well to sort of relatively save it there, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But big moment there for Eduardo Mortara. And I think did he spin across the line last year in the final qualifying duel?
He did.
Yeah.
He had the whole garage up and down up the pit lane screaming. we were all watching. It was so impressive, leaving it all out on the line.
But the Maserati MSG team will be a little bit more frustrated with that. 11.5 minutes to go. Let's go back down to Karun. Karun.
You know, Jack, you were asking me about whether I'm wide awake, and I was saying how cold it is. The track is only 6 degrees. It's unbelievably cold. And that's why these drivers are having to do multiple laps. I could see one of the Envision cars in front of me is coming to change tires, but they're taking a lot of laps to get any temperature in. And the reason I'm mentioning it is because qualifying, guys, is only in, less than 2 hours for when qualifying starts. And getting the tires in the right temperature for that peak that you want in qualifying is massively important. So the drivers are using the session to try and understand just how many laps and what is the best way to get the tires into that window.
Yeah, 6 degrees is chilly. That is not a warm start to the day as far as track temperature is concerned, because especially when you go to like Jakarta and it'll be 50 degrees or something a little bit later in the season. Yesterday I think it was 29 for free practice 1, so which will be about what it is for the race, I'd have thought. So real tough challenge that.
So as a driver, Ollie, how hard is it with track temperatures as low as that, especially with a new tyre, to get temperature into the tyres? I mean, you had a chance yesterday to experience the car and the tyres a few laps.
Yeah, but I didn't fit in it.
It's smaller. The cockpit looks smaller.
It's not built for tall drivers. But yeah, it is very difficult. You just have to go out of the pits and push right away and really get a feel, especially under the braking zone, because that's where you put the most energy into the tire. You can also overload the fronts at the apex of the corner and scrub the front tires that way. Just a couple of tricks that you can do to get tire temp. But I don't think in qualifying we can expect these guys to come in and change tires. I think it'll be counterintuitive. We can see them and expect them to stay on track and run the whole session on track.
Positive day so far for Lucas de Grassi, and he is third quickest right now in the Mahindra after they looked like they were struggling yesterday, but third fastest here. He's 2.2 seconds down after the first couple of sectors, so this isn't a big push lap for de Grassi in terms of beating his time. Hughes still fastest with Dennis second, and de Grassi does return to the pits. Buemi in fourth place, the top four covered by just 0.07 of a second. Then you got Ticktum there in the Neo in fifth position. Freitz and Muller still in the pits, and Bird still in the pits as well. So as we saw a couple of moments ago, so
if
troubles.
I'm looking at this correctly, we have 9 different teams in the top 9.
Good stuff.
That's great. Oh, it's great to see Neo as well, just putting good lap times, getting up to speed quickly with the new car, new season. Because it's been, it's been a challenging few seasons for Neo, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It would be good to see them.
Been a challenging half a decade. four of the last 5 seasons, they've finished bottom of the team's championship. So if they are back up in the mix, that is super duper.
Also got to say, their livery, I'm not even going to be impartial about this. It looks fantastic. I absolutely love it.
Really?
I think it looks like a retro, like spaceship, like an F-Zero video game sort of thing. It looks amazing.
A retro spaceship.
Like an old arcade game. It's great.
Wow. Yeah, I like it's funky.
Good to see both of them. Oh,
Mortara
okay,
parked up. So Mortara parked up in the Maserati MSG, and yeah, that's just in a safe position so they can clear it away. Look at, did you see the? Did you see the
cold?
Yeah, the what's the word? The breath.
The breath. Yeah, I would have stayed in the car.
Come pick me up.
I just had a little nap.
Yeah.
7 minutes and 20 seconds to go. Here's Jake Dennis doing some dramatic tyre warm-up on the run down towards the first corner in the Avalanche Andretti. Through turn 1. He's currently second quickest, 300ths away. He's just come out the pits on that last lap, so whether this is a push now, we'll have a look. He's certainly getting the back end out a little as he exits turn 3 through sector 1, and he's 2 seconds away, so not a big push lap here from Dennis at the moment, but again, second place for him is pretty encouraging, really.
Bids well for my pick to win it all today.
Yeah. So so you picked Dennis for the race win today or the championship? It was the win.
The race win.
Yeah. Okay. So that was Askew's impartial.
I need a couple more weekends to give you a championship prediction.
Rust behind on a push. Minus 2 seconds.
And that's Dennis being told René Rast behind him is on a push lap, and as you can see, he led him through. Rast with a very clear visor there, isn't he? He's almost completely see-through here, which would be a tricky one with the sun coming down. Who was it? Was it Alexander Sims? It was Alexander Sims when he raced in Formula E. Always a clear visor.
Yeah, see the glasses.
Never a tint at all. Even if it's sunny, clear visor. There you go. There's your most boring thing I'll tell you today.
It's driver preference.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, whenever the sun was low like this, I would prefer the darkest visor possible.
Well, that's kind of why I was surprised.
Yeah. And during the day, when at noon, it wouldn't matter for me so much.
Yeah.
And I would actually prefer a lighter visor.
Okay. We liked it too. We loved seeing her eyes when we drove.
Were they wide?
They were closed a lot of the time.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
5 minutes and 20 seconds on the clock. Right, Van Dorn's on a good lap here. Quickest yesterday was the DS Penske of Jean-Eric Verne, his teammate. He's getting a bit of traffic here. The Nissan duly dives out of the way. He's 600ths up after the first 2 sectors, Stoffel Van Dorn. You can hear him lifting coming through the Peraltada. That's why it's so tricky. It's not flat, that final corner. And Van Dorn goes 6th fastest. Lost a 10th or so in the final sector, which, as you look at Jay Penske on the right here, team principal Nigel Beresford on the left, Oliver Turvey's lurking behind them. Maybe that 10th was that bit of traffic at the end or something, but decent lap that from DS Penske. Here's Van Dorn's radio.
Hold on. I guess you had traffic sector 3. Sector 1 was very good. Sector 2 missing 2/10.
That was David Ledouche giving the feedback to Van Dorn and saying his sector 1 was good. Buemi's on quite a good lap. He's done a reasonable first sector. Evans actually in the Jaguar is almost 2/10 up on Jake Hughes' time. As we look at Zach Brown on the left-hand side and Ian James on the right-hand side, Evans does go top, a 1 minute 13.548. And the CEO of McLaren here this weekend. And Hughes comes across the line. Is this starting a push? I think it could be, because that was it was a cool down before.
He's going straight.
He's pushed too far, and he's off to Ecuador. Is that the... so the reason I hesitated with that gag, I've got no idea what country's at the bottom of Mexico.
It's a confusing part of the map, I find.
Come on, give me an answer.
I'm going to throw something random out there and say Nicaragua. I was going to say Nicaragua, yeah.
Nicaragua. Guatemala. Guatemala. So moving on from that, I told you it wouldn't be the most boring thing, but I would say that. 3 minutes and 20 seconds to go. Out goes Nico Muller in the Apt Cupra. Sam Bird still in the pit lane with his teammate second quickest. Sete Camera's gone fastest now. A 1 minute 13.5, and he's pushing again, Sete Camera, and Buemi's done a really good first sector, and Fenestraz has done a really good first sector. So in these last 3 minutes, I think we're going to see the lap times tumble. Robin Freitz is sliding his way around. His first sector is 1.4 seconds away from Sete Camera, who's lost a bit of time in the middle sector on his lap. Norman Natto's just gone straight on at the chicane as well. Very busy sessions, this. It feels like the cars are on track the whole time.
Well, they are.
Yeah.
Last year it was today it would be an out-push box. You know, a lot of time spent in the pit lane. So for the rookies now, they get much more track time, which is fantastic.
Here's a look at Oliver Rowland just having a straight-on moment at the first corner, looping it back around and getting it going again, doing the Bottas spin and rejoining the circuit. That's a little flat spot on the front left, or whether it's just a bit of dirt that's carried on. I think it's not too bad. Now, Dan Ticktum through the first sector was 7/10 up on Sergio Sete Camera. Not a great middle sector for the British driver, so he's now about 3 or 4 tenths down. So he might not improve this time around, but his first sector was absolutely huge. Through the final corner he comes, and out across the line. Sete Camera still quickest, Evans second, Van Dorn jumps up into third place in the DS Penske, and Ticktum does the fastest final sector of anyone. So Ticktum has the fastest sector 1 and the fastest sector 3. Neo are looking so good.
They have real pace here.
Yeah.
And I was a bit wary after FP1. There were sessions last year where they were quick in FP1 as well, but they kind of fell off as the weekend went on. So very promising.
Okay, time for a cool. Time for a cool. 1 minute 40 remaining. So blue 300, cool, and we push 300 next lap.
So they're going to do a push 300 on the next lap for Ticktum. 1 minute and 12 seconds remaining. Natto's done a big first sector. Bird looks like he's about to leave the pit lane. Verline's done a big first sector. Vern's done a big first sector. So I think we're seeing, again, the lap times coming in now, and a lot of lap times ready to drop with less than so we're into the final minute of the session. Here is Pascal Verline. First sector was good. Middle sector, not quite so good. He's about 300ths down on Sergio Sete Camera. Here he comes out of the final corner. Can he get to the top of the times here in the Porsche? Pascal Verline through the final corner. He does. Goes 100 quicker than Sergio Sete Camera. So good lap there from Pascal Verline. Meanwhile, Jean-Eric Verne is coming through the final turn. He's 800ths away from Verline as he cuts the timing beam and only goes 8th quickest, loses quite a lot of time in the final sector. Jake Hughes was second fastest yesterday and now is currently 6th quickest, but he's only a 10th away from Verline after sectors 1 and 2, bouncing over the curbs as he exits the Foro Sol, then onto the power, through the Peraltada. There's someone's just had a little moment at the first corner, so that won't affect Hughes. He can come across the line and finish his lap. Dennis is 3 tenths up on Verline after sector 2. Here comes Hughes across the line, 5th place. Again, loses time in the final sector. Not many people improving in the final sector as Jake Dennis comes through the middle sector. Someone's gone straight on. It's the Envision of... I'm just trying to find out which Envision that is. Nick Cassidy, who's off at turn 1. On board with Lotterer. Dennis goes quickest. Jake Dennis to the top of the times by 3.5 tenths of a second. Lotterer is 6 tenths down on his teammate after the first sector. So, it's all kicking off here. But Lotterer should be able to jump up the order a little bit. But Dennis had no purple sectors in that. They were all personal bests, but none fastest of anyone. So this all got a bit busy.
Consistently quick. Your prediction's looking pretty good, Ellie.
Not bad.
Although, where's he just gone? Am I going mad? He's just dropped down to 7th. Track limits. He got done for track limits.
Maybe the final corner.
Yeah, maybe he ran wide.
Takes a 3.
So Jake Dennis's lap time gets deleted.
Final corner question.
And there's the checkered flag then, and it will be Pascal Wehrlein that will be quickest in free practice 2, 4 thousandths quicker than Jean-Eric Verne. Roger Griffiths, the team principal at Andretti, but despite the track limits, they'll still know that they've got some good pace in that.
Yeah, it's not an official session, obviously. Really impressed by Porsche here. Completely turned it around from Valencia. So so both the Andretti and the Works Porsche in the top 10. Da Costa as well there.
Here's Dennis's radio.
Okay, lap time may be reinstated, or keep you posted.
Lap time may be reinstated, says Sean McGill. The drama of free practice 2. But whatever happens, it will be a Porsche powertrain at the front. And in Valencia, I was out the back of the garages one day, and it was some of the Porsche drivers and the Andretti drivers. They were all chatting, being like, we can't do these lap times. We're nowhere near these lap times in Valencia. They were really like, how are we going to do this? And then here they are, looking strong.
Shows you how much can change in just a few weeks of data and developments and changing it. And we haven't got a lot of time between the next, it's not even the next race, really the next 3-4 races are in such a small gap. There's a limited time to do it, but if they can do that in, let's say, what, 3 weeks? Impressive.
The first half of this year is going to be a development race, not only for the teams, but for the drivers, figuring out how to extract lap times out of this new car, out of the tires.
And we have 6 races in 7 weeks or 8 weeks or something like that. From today until the 25th of February, there are 5 races. That's it. So in just over a month, 5 weeks, 5 races, because of the doubleheader in Saudi and then Hyderabad and then Cape Town. So it's going to be so intense, and it's such a huge chunk of the season. You're going to be a third of the way through the season in a month's time.
All very different circuits as well.
Yeah.
Lots of long nights for the engineers. That's what that means.
Yeah. This is where it's good being in TV. You don't have to do the long nights.
It's warm in here too.
Yeah, I know. Some burnouts going on the grid, and some practice starts. Bird did get out at the end of the session after spending 23 minutes of that half-hour session in the pits. That's going to be brutal for the Jaguar team. But there's some hope there with Evans up in 4th place, only 500ths away from Wehrlein, that at least the pace is there. But it's that classic, do you want a fast car with no reliability or a slow car with reliability? The age-old question. So end of free practice 2. Next up is qualifying, which will be getting underway in just over an hour and a half's time. And it's Pascal Wehrlein who's quickest in the second practice session. Only 4 thousandths quicker than Jean-Eric Verne. Jake Dennis in 7th place did actually set the fastest time, but got done for track limits, which is quite a rarity actually in Formula E to find some track limits. So full credit to Jake Dennis for finding some. 7th quickest, just behind the Jake Hughes in 6th. Has there ever been a world championship with 2 Jakes in before?
Good question. That's the question we need to know.
Well, that's what you need to find the answer to in the next hour and a half, Saunders. Dan Tickton finishing in 11th place, 12th and 14th for the 2 Nissans of Nato and Fenestraz. Lotterer down in 15th position, René Rast in 17th. Tough day for Maserati MSG. Gunter 7/10ths off, and Mortara hitting the barriers. And Muller and Freintz struggling for Abt, and Sam Bird not getting a lap time in after breaking down early in the session. Well, let's go down to the McLaren team and hear from Ian James. He's with Nicky Shields.
Well, Ian James, sorry to drag you out. It's a bit cold here back there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really cold, chilly, but we'll survive.
Let's talk about the first session of the day and the performance that we're seeing from Jake Hughes at the moment, because bearing in mind he's one of the only rookies, he's delivering at the moment.
Yeah, you know, we've known Jake for some time now. He's been our development and reserve driver for the past couple of years, and I had every faith that when we gave him that race seat that he'd deliver. It's early days yet, we have to temper it with that, but you know, he showed some real solid form in Valencia, and then FP1 yesterday, FP2 today, has continued that trend. So I'm excited to see what he can do in quali and then the race.
Running around slightly further down the order, finishing in P17 during that session, but it's very, very early days. Just talk us through the conversation that's going on between you and the rest of the team during this first session.
I think at the moment, as you just said, it's early days, and with René, he's been away from Formula E for a little while, so he's on that sort of steep learning curve again now. So every lap he's getting faster and faster, which is great. What we're now going to be doing is working with the drivers and the engineers, taking a look at the data and understanding what we can do to unlock the rest of that performance that we need for quali and the race. And it's always that balance now between that one lap performance and then the efficiency you're going to need in the race as well. So there's some work to do over the next hour or so.
Well, it's great to see all 22 cars out on track for the first session of the day. Good luck for the rest of it.
Thanks, Nikki.
Thanks, Ian.
So good to hear from Ian James, team principal of the McLaren squad. Pascal Wehrlein, very smiley there. There we go. That's going to be a great social media clip. Check that one out on the Porsche socials. And a less happy Jean-Eric Verne finished that session second quickest, but still plenty to work on for the two-time champion. 4 thousandths slower than Pascal Wehrlein in the end. And here's a look back at free practice 2, a little snap of Jake Dennis before he gets on the circuit. They'll be sending that direct to Oliver Askew. And Sam Bird in the early stages had a breakdown of the car, which put him out of the session. And Norman Nato, that was Bird slowing down out of the Foro Sol. Managed to recover and get back to the pit lane, but only got 5 laps in the end. Big slide there from Tictum. Jake Dennis coming through towards the chicane. Tough day for the Jaguar team though. Although Mitch Evans ended the session 4th fastest, which was not too bad at all. Some drivers taking attack mode. Jake Hughes throwing the car over the curbs, coming through the Foro Sol. And Zach Brown, I think, will be satisfied with Hughes' performance in 6th place. Big moment there for Mortara, who went off the circuit fairly dramatically and managed to do it even more dramatically later on. Oh, who was that getting all leery? That was Nico Muller coming through the Foro Sol and getting out wide. And then this was Mortara a little later on, onto the dirt and into the wall. Scraped his way along and ended up crabbing around, couldn't get back to the pit lane, and that was the end of the Swiss-Italian-French's race. Big lock-up there for Da Costa, but his teammate Wehrlein ended quickest for Porsche on a 13.496. So we have got an hour and a half now until qualifying gets underway, and it's going to be a really fascinating session. Everything's so up in the air because it's a different team quickest today. The lap times in that session were 3/10 slower than they were in free practice 1 yesterday. Normally you'd expect track evolution, but the track's so much colder today. Lucas de Grassi ended up with a bit more of an encouraging time. Actually, I hadn't noticed this. The top 12 cars separated by 3/10 of a second. That is incredibly, incredibly tight. So make sure you come back to watch qualifying. Don't forget, we've still got the dual format. If you haven't seen a Formula E qualifying session before, then make sure you join us because it's an awful lot of fun. They'll be going out for their groups, and then the fastest will be going through and racing each other head to head to try and secure the first pole position of the season and the championship lead going into the first race, because there are 3 points available for pole position. Stoffel Vandoorne ended the session 5th fastest. Same as yesterday, 5th quickest actually, but a little bit closer today. We're in for an incredibly tight qualifying session. Make sure you join us, as I say, just over an hour and a half's time for the first session of the season.